Welcome to the Sideline Podcast. My name is Kevin Showalter. My co-host Jared Booker will be joining us shortly. This is episode 33 in what we are calling The Case for Campus2Canton. It's part 3 of 5. We are two friends who love football, fantasy football, and all things sports. You can hit that subscribe button on YouTube for more content from Booker or myself. Also, there is a link in the description for our top 15 quarterback video series, YouTube shorts, simple short clips, easy to watch. Take a look. Let us know if you agree or disagree. On this episode, we will be covering news and updates from the NFL, some NHL, NBA playoff action, trivia, and then part 3 of the case for Campus2Canton. So first up in the news world, Brock Purdy got paid. 5 years, $265 million, 181 guaranteed. He is no longer Mr. Irrelevant, as this article from ESPN says. And yeah, huge deal for Brock. Again, it's always the guaranteed dollars. The 265 is huge. The guaranteed, honestly, is huge. But a lot of times the average annual values, those are great for agents, getting that one up on the next guy. But $180 million guaranteed for the last pick of the draft has got to be inspiration for all of the players who just got drafted last month. Also, the NFL released its schedule. This is an interesting graphic where it shows, just all of the matchups, prime time, which ones are Sunday night, Thursday night football. You're probably going to have to squint to see this. Go ahead and check it out on X. It's not our graphic, but I just thought it was interesting to see all the games in one place. Really excited for football. Only problem is we got to wait another 4 months for the games to start. Again, it's exciting. We are going to be releasing our top 5 winners and losers on YouTube from the NFL schedule. So keep an eye out for that over the next couple days. One spoiler is, and thing of note, is the NFL really has 4 stacked divisions this year. I've got the NFC East, the NFC North, the AFC West, and the AFC North. I'm guessing we get a couple Super Bowl teams, or like we get the 2 Super Bowl teams are going to come from that division. It just feels like those divisions are so stacked that certainly somebody from there will be hoisting the Lombardi. Obviously, the Bills, somebody from the West could come out of nowhere in the NFC, but I think it's going to be one of those 4 divisions. Also, this week we have just drama. The Trey Hendrickson, Cincinnati Bengals, we're going to call it the Civil War between these two. It honestly, it feels like a trade is going to happen just because of how stingy the Cincinnati Bengals are. But I wouldn't be shocked if they eventually come to a deal like T. Higgins. It just seems maybe he wants close to a top of the market money, and he's earned it. He's right up there with a Myles Garrett, TJ Watt. His stats are on par with them. I think Cincinnati's hoping probably for that hometown discount, and I think he's willing to take a little bit of a discount, but again, if you're producing, you want that contract, you want the money that represents the level of play that you've been at. So moving along to the NHL, I won't do a full dive into the TSP group on the ESPN app just because I did that last week and the second round is still going. So one thing of note, OV and the Capitals have been eliminated. That officially busts my bracket, so I will not be winning really either bracket because both of my predicted champions are done. So sad to me, but good thing for you guys watching and following along in that group. We got a big game 7 tomorrow night in Toronto. I watched most of the game last night between the Panthers and the Maple Leafs. And yeah, this has been a good series, and I'm happy that it's coming down to a game 7. You have to think the home team is going to get a little bump in being Toronto, but also the experience of the Florida Panthers, it would be hard to bet against them. So I don't know if I have an official prediction. I guess my official guess would be the Florida Panthers and the experience. I'm going to trust that in game 7. It was Toronto's goalie's first shutout last night. I don't necessarily know if he's going to continue at that high level of play where I believe Marshawn, Kachuk, and Bobrovsky, that combination, the experience they have on that team, I think they get it done in game 7, but can't wait to watch this one tomorrow night. It is almost every night of the week we have an exciting game in either the NHL or the NBA playoffs. This is an awesome time to be a sports fan. And yeah, we've been watching along and loving every minute of it. Moving over to the NBA, we have another game 7 tomorrow night between Denver and OKC. This game will be in OKC, very similar to that NHL game that I described. I like the experience of Denver. I like having the best player on the floor, which some may debate, but I think is Nikola Jokic. SGA is right there, and it wouldn't shock me, but I'm going to lean on Denver. Aaron Gordon hitting big shots. Russ Westbrook going back home to OKC. It just feels like Denver's going to pull this one out. When the game matters, I think Jokic comes through with one of those massive triple-double type games. The NBA Conference Finals start next week. Really excited for that. We've got New York and Indiana on the East. Going to have a fresh team in the NBA Finals from the East, which is really exciting. And say the Thunder pull out the series in the West, we are guaranteed to have a new champion, and also one of these young guys is really going to take that next step into becoming the face of the NBA. The favorites at this point has to be the Timberwolves. They are just, as a team, they look good, and Ant-Man looks unstoppable when he is clicking. And so, yeah, if I had to bet, I would say the Timberwolves are probably the favorite at the moment. That being said, if it is Denver, it's going to be an interesting series, and I think there's a decent chance Denver can get back to the NBA Finals. So that wraps up our news and updates. We are going to move into part 3 and trivia of what we are calling the case for Campus2Canton. Really excited for this. Again, we are starting a TSP Campus2Canton League, and it was the origin of this podcast was really Booker and I jumping into this type of league, and we liked it so much. We've always liked sports and wanted to talk about sports, but that league really gave us some encouragement to say, you know what, let's start a podcast. Let's talk about these kind of things. And it's expanded a little bit, but we're really excited for this part 3 of the case for Campus2Canton. This is the when. If you haven't watched the what and the why, that is episodes 1 and 2. You can go back and check that out on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify. Yeah, without further ado, here we go. We are going to jump into some trivia. So I was 0 for 2 last week. We're going to see if I can get you to be 0 and 2 this week. So what year was the first ever fantasy football league? Was it A, 1962, B, 1972, C, 1982, or D, 1992? Again, what year was the first fantasy football league?
Come on, man.
Got him.
No,
You,
no, you didn't.
you,
You didn't. I'm just by like simple deduction of like when the first computer came out, the first iPhone. I mean, there's no way it's A or B. Um, and truthfully, people were worried about a heck of a lot more in the '80s than fantasy football. So it's D, 1992, man.
You're so confident. So
I
that's your
am.
final answer.
That's
I
my
didn't
final
say
answer.
I didn't say digital fantasy football league.
Oh,
I said the first fantasy football league. I didn't say there was an app out there to do this. So yeah, this is gonna
well,
shock
I'm
you.
done then.
So anybody in the chat know the answer to this? He is wrong, and he is wrong by quite a bit.
Stop.
All right. Final answer is A,
No.
1962. The Greater Oakland Professional Pigskin Prognosticators League. Go ahead
I'm
and look
sorry,
that
that's
up.
not real.
Yeah, I don't know if it is or not, but that's what the internet told me, so I'm rolling with it. But and I mean,
Wow.
it, from what I could find, it was a couple college buddies, and obviously prognosticating about football, and so yeah, that is the earliest fantasy football league according to me in this evening.
If
So
if those guys or gals had come to, like, I don't know when ESPN got started, but what a gold mine. Like, I don't know if these
Yeah,
guys or gals are still alive, but, like, if you were a part of this in 1962 and to see where fantasy football is now,
yeah.
it's like investing in Amazon, like, the first year they started
Oh,
trading. I
yeah.
mean, yeah,
Well, and it's
anyway.
only, like it's only going up. I mean, some states, like, daily fantasy still isn't legal. Yeah, it's still growing. I
Washington
feel
State.
like yeah, there's so many, like, people that play fantasy football, but there's so many people that don't, and so, yeah, I think it's only going, up and to the right, so all right, question 2. Again, if you know the answer in the chat, feel free to let us know because we know you might have a better chance of getting this one, but I felt pretty good I was going to stump you on that first one. So let us know if you know the answers. Here we go. It is not the will to win that matters. Everyone has that. It's the will to prepare to win that matters. Who said that quote? Was it A, Vince Lombardi, B, John Madden, C, John Gruden, or D, Bear Bryant? Again, if you know the answer in the chat, let us know. Pretty confident that Booker does not know the answer to this, but we're going to see if he gets his 25% chance here.
Again, just by the power of deduction, um, that sounds like old man wisdom. Uh, so I'm gonna take out B and C. I know John Madden was an old school coach, but I think it's someone further back, either Vince Lombardi or D. Bear Bryant. Um, and out of those two, I it sounds more like a college football, like, locker room speak. So I'm going D. Bear Bryant.
Ooh,
Oh,
nailed it. Nailed it. Nicely done, sir.
thank you,
I
thanks for
liked
giving me that.
your deductive reasoning there. That was good. Other than saying the first one of well, there's no internet in the '60s, so they were
Yeah, that was
screwed.
rough. That was rough.
All right. So we are going to move along here to again. This is part 3 of what we are calling the case for Campus to Canton. And we're just trying to lay out some arguments, some reasons on why we think this is a great way to play fantasy football. Those of you who have never played in a league like this, giving you more information and hopefully stirring the cup of excitement for more people to play. So if you haven't checked out our first two, the what and the why for Campus to Canton, feel free to go check that out. This week we are going to get into the when of Campus to Canton. And part of this where it's going to be a lot of logistics on kind of the weekly schedules of managing these teams. It's a league that goes all throughout the year, sort of. We got a little bit of a disclaimer there. So yeah, why don't we just dive right in? Let's start with a simple one here for you, Booker. When does trading happen in a dynasty, Campus to Canton? You know, you're building this long term roster. When does trading happen?
So what I
And we
wanna
kind of
say
go ahead, go ahead.
sorry. So what I wanna say is all year round except during the playoffs. Um, in reality, people like taking the winter off until around springtime. Um, but really, like, trading can happen anytime at all except during the playoffs, obviously. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And we honestly in our league, we were still like, I don't remember what it was this past season, but there was definitely some like, and maybe it's a further, podcast, but we kept the NFL trading open after the college season finished. And I'm almost more in favor of like have the trade deadline, and that's like the trade deadline until the end of the NFL playoffs because any trade that happens in our league pretty much involves both. And so I did make a couple trades before the NFL playoffs, but I think, and again, we this isn't an official verdict in our TSP league, but I will bring that up to the fellas in our other league. Of I think that hard deadline of like, hey, this is the final trade, and until the NFL playoffs are over. And so one issue with that, and as we continue along here, is the college season goes quick. And so we're talking 8 or 9 weeks that you have to make the playoffs, because in college football, they're only playing 11 or 12 games. And so, if you're not close to the playoffs in those 8 or 9 weeks, you're probably not going to make it. And so, uh, one thing we noticed last year, especially, was like, oh, wow, like we're in the playoffs already. And the season went by so quickly. And so I think in your strategy, like I mean, in an NFL league, in a redraft league, you want to get off to a good start. I think in college football, campus to Canton, it's even more important that you're not trying to make up that ground when you don't have much room left. Okay, so let's move into schedules during the season. Again, this is kind of the when throughout the week of, hey, we are in October, you're in the middle of your league, when are things going to be happening? And so one distinction we wanted to make here is that, again, your week is going to end on Saturday. So with most leagues, your waivers are going to run on a Sunday night or a Monday night, and then games are going to start Thursday or Friday. So your lineups are going to lock a lot faster than in the NFL. And that's, honestly, I think I'm still getting used to that. There's times, and we switched to best ball. I'm kind of a best ball hater. But that kind of bails you out a little bit if you're in a best ball league. But still, that waiver, I've gotten burned several times on that waiver thing, because I'm so programmed that, hey, waivers run Tuesday night into Wednesday, set your, Thursday night football. Okay, then I have until Sunday. And so it's just a whole different timeline when you're like, okay, I need to make sure Sunday night I've got my waiver guys figured out for college football. We are probably going to sidebar. It was one of our favorite segments and things to do last year, was like our college Campus Canton waiver wire picks. Shout out to Andrews. Sorry, Andrews. Jack Andrews, right?
Entries, Jack
Um,
entries.
he was on our waiver wire last year. You picked him up, and now he's got a premier position, being the tight end one for Texas. And so, again, not to toot our own horn, but that's the kind of information we want to bring during the football season that helps you guys win, and help there be more information out there for these type of things. And so, Booker is looking pretty nicely that he or nicey, as Mr. John Gruden
Nice.
likes to say, about picking up Mr. Injuries. So, yeah, any thoughts on that as just the adjustment to those different, the Sunday, Monday waivers, setting your lineups a little bit early, or again, you're flying by the seat of your pants in most things, so you probably go with the flow type of thing. But have you ever gotten burned on the waivers or trying to set your lineup before we went best ball?
Honestly, no, and I'm not trying to, like, sound, elitist to you, but I'm
Just
so, like, because like, I act the moment I feel like doing something, so I'm watching college football, and if someone makes a couple big plays, I'm like, "The moment this game is over," or whatever, like, he's on my list, and so I'm
yeah,
very reactive. I think for people who are planning, you gotta make sure you're hitting your deadlines.
yeah,
Um, but I love that aspect of Campus to Canton where you are, because I'm gonna spend all Saturday watching college football anyway, and so
yeah,
finding that diamond in the rough is there's not a whole lot of better feelings. Potentially having your first child, but maybe even not. I don't know.
yeah. And yeah, I think what I found is life gets busy, and I forget of like, oh, Monday nights, I should make sure all my waiver claims are what I want for the week. So it's definitely an adjustment. So if you're playing for the first time, just be aware that the schedule is a little bit different, just because the college football season is a little different. With your NFL rosters, again, you have a college roster, you have an NFL roster. This functions very similar to what most of us are used to playing, whether you're in redraft or a dynasty league. A lot of the same things. You're setting a lineup. There's fab. There's free agents, there's sit start decisions, all of your normal like fantasy football type of experience is going to be similar. The biggest difference is that you have two rosters that are one that you're trying to navigate. So I don't think we'll touch on that too much unless you have anything else on the NFL roster side of things.
I do not.
So one other win, or again, this is kind of our logistics, our schedule. It's on a hard fast schedule throughout the year, but just if you're playing in this kind of league, things to be looking out for. Obviously, the NFL draft just happened a couple weeks ago. And now people, if you play in a dynasty league, okay, we're going to draft our rookies. When you're in a campus camp, your rookies are 17 and 18-year-old high schoolers. And so we will have a rookie draft or what we're going to call a supplemental draft, I think is what we call it in our league. And the, we're going to probably have ours in August, I believe is when it is, both in our current league and the TSP league. It's nice. I mean, just guys changing their mind, transfers. Hey, I'm going to Oregon. Just kidding. I'm going to Washington. Like, I would say in any league, in any type of fantasy football, pushing your draft as like far back as possible is always a good idea, in my estimation. Some people disagree, but that is my thoughts. For my NFL redrafts, like the ideal draft is the Wednesday night before the season opener. Like, because I don't want to pick the guy that tears his ACL in game 3 of the preseason. Like, I just don't want to do it. And so, um, that's my thought. So yeah, that is each year you will have a rookie draft or a supplemental, which again in a campus to Canton, you're not drafting the guys, the Ashton Genties, the Travis Hunters. They are most likely already on somebody's roster. You're drafting the top 17-year-olds, the top 18-year-olds who are going to go into the college football system. So that's one big difference. Again, the nice part that because there's that supplemental draft is you get the experience. Most of us that do redrafts, we love like the draft is almost the pinnacle of your team for most people, because everybody comes out of the draft thinking, sweet, I'm going to win my league this year. Like I picked the perfect team. And so it really is kind of the high point because usually it goes downhill from there. So I would say that the nice part about this is you still get to enjoy that draft feeling. But I would say it's one downside of Campus Canton compared to redraft, where the for me it's less exciting to draft 18-year-olds that I'm assuming are going to end up at Tulane or Bowling Green because they can't make it to Alabama. So like it's in part why I've pressed heavily into the NFL side of this thing, but it's still exciting. It's exciting to have that draft, to have that supplement. Like, hey, you got Dylan Raiola last year. Like to see some of those, the Jeremiah Smiths, the Cam Colemans, to see some of those guys that were taken in the supplemental, then contributing on your roster is pretty cool. So again, we will be holding a TSP draft, but this will be a startup draft. So it's a little bit different. Maybe we'll do an episode here in a couple weeks on how to prepare for a Campus Canton startup draft. We talked about this a little bit in our what episode, how it's important to have a strategy, to have a plan, and to stick to that plan. Don't go into your draft of any type of draft and try to execute 3 different plans in the same draft. That's just going to not work out well. Like pick strategy and stick with it. And so maybe we'll do a full episode on just a startup draft, our startup rankings. So keep an eye out for that. Unless you have anything else, I think that is
I
all that
do.
I have for this
I got
evening.
one
Go
last
ahead.
thing I want to say. So
Yeah.
it's so interesting. Like I'm glad that we're on this podcast together because the very reason that drafting is maybe a little less exciting for you with Campus to Canton is why it's so exciting to me. For me, it's like you're driving into like Iowa and you're looking for this one thing in a barn and you're gonna buy this one thing and you're gonna pay the guy, the farmer, like next to nothing. And then this one thing is gonna be worth $1 billion and you got it for nothing. So just that, like to me, the reason why people love gambling is because you're gonna put a little bit of money on something, and it's gonna turn into a lot. So,
Yeah.
Campus to Can to me is like you're finding these guys, and maybe you spend 0 or $5 of fab, and it turns out that their number is called, and they turn in to the next star on that team. And then you
Yeah.
can flip around and trade them for more assets, and maybe they turn out to be nothing after you trade them, and then you've won again. There's something about the strategy of Campus to Canton that is
Yeah.
just I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I definitely love the strategy. Just not as much the 17, 18-year-old side of the strategy, but uh
Or the Iowa barn.
yeah, the Iowa barn. I'm still one of our early episodes I hammered home that stick to the blue bloods. I think you saw that in the NFL draft this past, spring. The SEC, the Big Ten dominate those big, powerful schools. Even in the NIL era, are still big, powerful schools. They recruit the best players. Those best players then end up being the best NFL players. Like that. That is pretty tried and true. So yeah, again, thanks for joining us this evening on this part 3 of the case for Campus to Canton. If you enjoy this content, you can subscribe on YouTube at the TSP community. You can find us on X and TikTok as well. Yeah, until next time.
See everybody.